What's going on here?
Well, seeing as there's no God and free will is an illusion, there really isn't any harm in diving into Capcom's Zombie of a Zombie franchise once again. See, that had a double meaning, and that's why it's funny.
You need to stop everything.
Also, I'm bringing Ibuki back for this one. Any objections? Does anyone have a problem with the way I'm currently living my life? Anyone? Anyone? Anyone?
I'm gonna touch your boy.
You will do no such thing! To say that I was excited when this game was announced would be a sinful understatement. I was the physical manifestation of hype. And I'm not even sure how that makes sense. Dead Rising 1 was and is one of my favorite games ever made, and along with Resident Evil 4 was my gateway to the larger world of gaming that wasn't stuck on a Nintendo platform. I mean, up until then, it was Zelda, Paper Mario, Tales of Symphonia, Mega Man X, obviously. Pretending I Don't Live in a Broken Home, that was a fun game. I like to call it Super Alcoholics Anonymous 64. The point is, I was excited. So excited that in anticipation, my Xbox fucking exploded! Now look, this isn't supposed to be an Xbox hit piece. Xbox is a fine platform if that's what you choose to play on. But it was at this point I switched to PlayStation and never looked back.
That Series S do be looking thick, though.
This was where my initial disappointment.
Usopp could please both her holes at the same time.
This is where my initial disappointment with Dead Rising 2 came from. For me, it wasn't a continuation of a game that I loved, it was a replacement for it with a radically different take on the world. One that, at the time, I didn't really agree with. And it also didn't help that since this game's predecessor was monogamous with Xbox, the PS3 version of the sequel was something of an afterthought, bereft of a beginning or ending. Oh man, you shouldn't have done any part of this, man. Oh my god, we're going to jail, man. Oh my god. The story of Dead Rising 2 is money. I'm kidding. But also, in no way am I kidding. After the events of Dead Rising, we see that while the world isn't in a full-scale apocalypse, infected individuals are more commonplace and need to take a miracle drug known as Zombrex, a variant of the inhibitor Isabella developed in the preceding game, every 24 hours to avoid zombification. One such infected is Katie Green. Isn't she adorable? Daughter of Chuck Green, motocross legend and living proof of the sentience of cardboard, who began his motocross career after fleeing the country of space when he brutally murdered his wife for having an affair with a plant. Oh? What's that you say? That's not even remotely close to his actual backstory? Well, how the fuck was I supposed to know? I'm playing on PlayStation because apparently I'm a second-class citizen. Yes, it's been a full 3 seconds and I am still upset about that. Even on re-release, PlayStation did not get the story DLC.
Once again, the land of the rising sun has been cut by Bill Gates.
I'm still going to give an honest review to the parts of Dead Rising the second that I can actually access, but I need to tell you up front that I won't technically be reviewing the full experience of the game. Now, this is obviously a bigger problem with the larger gaming spectrum, and it might make a pretty decent video on its own, should I decide to venture into the realm of video essays, but for the time being, I will say that time has been very kind to the fraction of this game that I can play. So after a bunch of stuff happens, I guess, Chuck finds himself in need financially to keep his daughter in good health. Off the bat, I have to say the strongest aspect of the writing in this game is its world building. It's apparent just how much the events of the first game affect the unrelated characters of this story, and it really lets that game matter. They aren't in a full-blown apocalypse, like I said, but outbreaks are a common enough occurrence that there are military procedures for dealing with them, and PSAs scattered throughout the world mirroring the posters you'd see regarding warning signs of a heart attack in real life. The first game gave you a cramped, impromptu space to hole up in, but 2 has a full-blown bunker with amenities for this very occurrence. There's a vaccine that suppresses the effects of the virus, but there's a limit to how much it works, which leads to people going into debt just to keep from immediately dying. Not relevant to today's world though, is it? The world building is just great in the way it lets the first game really matter. However, the same cannot be said for this game's story. Now, the shot of Chuck gently grabbing Katie's hand and covering her bite is strangely beautiful symbolism and wordlessly communicates their relationship. So in the literal next scene, Chuck stars in a motocross reality sports show where human beings are paid legal tender to run over recently deceased and reanimated with motorcycles to foot the bill. Look, you're asking a lot of me right now. To be fair, this does draw the ire of Cure, a protest group. Why do I put in words that I know I can't say? A protest group that says, you know, maybe it is actually kind of fucked up to desecrate the corpses of human beings on national television right in front of their loved ones when the government is ignoring the needs of the living infected. So after the literal only possible outcome of the proceeding occurs, our hero finds himself in another outbreak, fresh out of his daughter's life-saving medicine. Fuck. And awaiting military rescue in the next 72 hours. Bit of a coincidence that. Now the more genre savvy among you have probably guessed that this can only go well. I mean, look. See how much time we spend celebrating? Things go from bad to overtly contrived when it turns out that Chuck is being framed for the outbreak, and now must spend the entire 72-hour period attempting to clear his name as well as Cure's and escape Fortune City with his family. From here, the game functions much in line with the first one, but with a few twists. Allocate your time to whichever mission you decide to do, while using anything and everything you find in a confined space to survive the onslaught of the undead. Now, I've got a couple questions. First of all, am I to believe that anyone recognizes this thing as Chuck Green, motocross legend, from only his gear and this blurry, discolored video? And even ignoring that, why would Chuck Green, world-famous motocross celebrity, disguise himself in his own motocross gear, the one thing that makes him nakedly identifiable while committing insanely illegal acts on camera? Also, while I'm at it, why is this thin-ass grate the only thing keeping the zombies in? You've got a bunker with reinforced concrete, and you have just this flimsy piece of shit grate keeping the living dead in? Desist!
And since I'm already ripe with fury,
How in the holy hell did you get all of these corpses? Does your next of kin sign a waiver in time between infection and zombification? Do they pay out the ass to low-income families who can't afford Zombrex? Because I feel like that's social commentary that we're just ignoring. And so begins the lengthy trek to clear Chuck's name and find the truth before it vanishes into darkness. The characters are one-dimensional, the writing is full of contrivances, and there are some serious tonal no-nos. And all in all, it's disappointing that this well-established and fascinating world is just being used to tell a standard heist storyline. But I'm not gonna lose sleep over it because holy shit, oh my god, half-naked Lego man just JDM'd a fool. Yes, I'm really gonna go into this blood-soaked playground to honestly dissect the themes. Kate is sweet though, I like her. I am happy to say that the gameplay I enjoyed from Zombie Love Sim is still very much intact in this sequel, with some quality of life changes that are minor on the surface, but go quite a ways to give Zombie Love 2, It's Complicated, the ability to carve out its own identity. I will now explain this to you in the most fuck way possible. Drill plus bucket equals 3 drills, but why? Combo weapons, they exist. Stop asking questions. The major selling point of this game was its introduction of combo weapons, allowing players to mash 2 seemingly unrelated items together with ludicrous and implausible results. The artist formerly known as Blue Castle Games really talked up these combo weapons during the pre-release as a new game-defining feature, and I am happy to say they more than delivered. Each combo weapon can be accessed through these collectible cards attained through leveling up and looking at various movie posters throughout the city. To get my only issue out of the way early, and you can feel free to file this under nitpick, these scratch cards are dumb and bad and ruin my life with their dumb badness. Make me die. Having the audacity to forge a combo weapon without the corresponding card in your possession will yield a weaker version of the weapon with half of its functionality. This may seem arbitrary, but fuck you, life is arbitrary. But it really discourages experimentation, which is kind of what Dead Rising is founded on. I mean, I already figured out how to make the damn weapon on my own by playing around with an established mechanic that's new to this game. I feel like I should be rewarded for experimenting with new mechanics, but I'm stuck with a shittier version because the right code command isn't in a certain folder or something. I don't know, coding is bullshit and so am I. Do I really need to sit through the game pausing every time I level up to show me yet another combo card I randomly unlocked? It gets overwhelming, and I'd rather just do this at my own pace. On the plus side, combo cards still still very much give me the sex. They aren't just a matter of putting a thing on top of a thing to make Thing Definitive Edition, but have varied utility that can change the functionality of some of the more trivial items. For some reason, I typed the word items twice, and I have to assume I did it on purpose because I am flawless. So that was that sentence.
That's what it's gonna sound like when I'm done with you.
Off the bat, this system eliminates the concept of choke weapons. Dead Rising 1's Willamette Who's doing whatever that is? Dead Rising 1's Willamette Mall was a more claustrophobic area, so there was a justification for these weaker weapons' existence. Some of them were used more to slow assailants down while you were getting your bearings. However, since nowadays I know the Willamette Parkview Mall better than most members of my own family, typically I will throw useless gems at a zombie for 30 to 45 seconds, exhale out of my nose slightly louder than usual, and then just go back to all reliable. Why can't I die? Since 2 is now the home of a whole-ass indoor city, you don't really feel that desperation anymore, and using those gems on your own, well, they just kind of seem redundant. But, you know, maybe you want to hold on to them in case there's a flashlight. Now, and green comes in the pot. You know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying? On that note, shit like the laser sword or the unit pushing paddle saw, well, they can really help you get through a tight crowd, but when you find yourself dealing with just 1 or 2 undead heads, I really just don't clever. I just don't. Maybe you just want to fuck with them a little. Put a drill bucket on their domes, live a little. Oh god, fuck, was that offensive? This should get old, but I'm a simple man. Some items even rely on the actions of zombies. If you just want to cause some chaos, grab a human hand, strap some dynamite on it, and let nature do the rest. I love the fire extinguisher, but it'd be great if I could grab some duct tape and inexplicably turn it into like 30 fire extinguishers. Blow it the fuck up in a crowd of skin eaters. You know, just like Mom used to make. What the fuck are you talking about?
The Defiler commands your respect, but it'll settle for your fear. My wife is dead!
The electric wheelchair is fun, but it's missing something. Good thing I just happened to find this light machine gun next to my daughter's drugs. I need to be on every list. The big assery of Fortune City more than justifies its existence with all these various weapon possibilities. Scarcity really keeps these combo weapons from becoming mundane, but at the same time, most of these maintenance rooms you make them in have at least one combo ready on the shelves or around the door, so it feels like you always have something to play with. It's a great balance, and the sheer amount of unique combinations gives Dead Rising 2 such a great amount of replayability even after you reach that elusive level cap. Which, if you remember, was one of my biggest problems with Dead Rising 1. Do I need to argue that the slicicle's the tits? Do I even need to start this conversation again? I mean, you know it's the God stays in heaven out of fear of it. Combo weapons are the big new in this game, but there's a bunch of smaller news to be found, such as the currency system where the player can earn in-game money by playing the slots or by not being a tremendous idiot. Regardless of how your gains are gotten, they can be used at these 4 impromptu pawn shops. Yeah, those hooded bitches that tried to kill you for no ass reason other than fucking because. Well, now they want your business. Hey, have you ever seen The Godfather? No, but I've seen your friends die. The big selling point is that it's a good place to get Zombrex for the baby, or for various other adult babies. But if you're feeling lazy, you can also purchase specific combo weapons, or just get yourself a new ride. Satan has taken the wheel, and I am not a backseat driver.
It's funny because there is no backseat.
Get out of my house. I have to say, the ability to purchase Zombrex anytime is very useful for the absolutely no times that has been a problem. That shit basically grows on trees. Literal hours before each dose are like 40 opportunities to get Zombrex for free with absolute minimal effort. Granted, you will have to do a side quest, but that will take no time at all, and we will get to why. The tension of running out, it doesn't exist. You are swimming in the Brex by the end. How is this a plot point? How?
Oh no, my sister died of zombie.
How? Just give her Zombrex. It's everywhere! And on that note, if I want a combo weapon, I'll make a goddamn combo weapon. So vehicles aside, these shops are a complete write-off. There is no reason to not burn them down out of sheer vengeance, which God on high, I will do. So in the end, the whole currency system is just redundant. Aside from that, there really weren't too many notable improvements or changes to the open world, though I have to say I appreciate that this game doesn't make you sacrifice a fucking goat to pull off skill moves. I have no fucking idea how I never mentioned this in my Dead Rising 1 review, but this, Capcom, is not okay. This is life limiting.
Press square button and A button simultaneously, while pushing left thumbstick toward the direction of your childhood trauma. God is dead, he remains dead, and we have killed.
In addition to regular story missions comes the need to bring your offspring her daily fix, which if memory serves, was something of a point of contention among early reviewers of this game. How could they do this? Decried game journalist number 604, his circuits chattering in anger. I don't want to interrupt my playtime tracking down a key item and backtracking down to the safe room to give some brat her medicine. I can't believe they're forcing me to trade in all these items for the Bigoron sword. Why does Yoshi have to get all the red coins? I have to get True Jedi or the Pentagon will explode. I've already gone over this in my Dead Rising 1 video, so I'll be as concise as possible. No one is holding a gun to your head and telling you that you need to play this mission or any mission, which is exactly what makes Dead Rising unique. For all intents and purposes, this whole ass game is optional. Now, you'll have to actually work harder for better outcomes, just like any video game, but nothing is stopping you from just saying, who cares, it's not my kid, and bringing an abrupt end to Katie Green's all too brief existence. No one will punish you, and you're absolutely free to go about your personal orgy of violence against the formerly living visitors of Fortune City, completely free from parental burdens. The only calls you have to answer now are the ones from God, telling you what a fucking monster you are. On the technical side of things, Capcom heard your vitriolic hatred of their much maligned survivor escorts, leading to a significant improvement in this game's AI. The days of running straight into walls or jumping right ass in front of a descending sledgehammer are long behind us. Survivors are, simply put, not your problem anymore, as they can effortlessly run through a horde of the undead unscathed by the jaws of death. Oh, they'll get caught, but not to worry, because they are strong, independent ones and zeros that don't need no man. It's physically impossible for that green bar to disappear. You'll never have to worry about losing a survivor. Ever. There is absolutely no tension or danger of failing, and the thrill of a successful rescue is non-existent. You are quite simply just running back and forth to the safe house, over and over and over and over. I wish to cease. Survivor escorts are a stupid, dumb, stupid, boring slog. Look, I know. I know. I know. I know. I know! The Survivor AI in Dead Rising 1 was unforgivable. I get that. You all want blood, and you're right to. But they have to do something to make these escorts have some semblance of a challenge or resemble a video game in some way, otherwise you're just backtracking, which, granted, it always was. But the last game at least made an attempt to hide that fact. Fret not though, because do you remember the currency system we went over? Yes, this is going exactly where you think it is. It's commentary? I don't know, all I see is red. I get that the game wants us to use its mechanics in whatever ways it can to increase the challenge and justify bringing any new ideas into this game. That's what game design is, and I should be able to suspend my disbelief, but this is just asking me too much. This isn't really a challenge, this is just the game putting an artificial roadblock in to say that they made a video game. I don't know. Yeah, sorry, I'm flat broke, but I do have a free pass to Embrace Oblivion. Yes, you do get experience for these missions, and they can yield rewards like Zombrex, combo cards, or money for your next survivor escort. Legally speaking, I do believe that is a gameplay loop. I will say they're still worth doing, of course, but they also really break up the action and you feel it a lot more this time. They're really the equivalent of a brisk jog, whereas in Dead Rising 1, it felt like you were crawling right out of the depths of hell.
Get it? Like in Dead Rising? Do you get it?
However, survivor escorts and escorts that are survivors, it's not funny, but I said it anyway, are far from the only activity in Fortune City. For Dead Rising wouldn't be itself without the coveted Psychopath boss battles. Would it? Ah, yes. Those lovable lunatics from Dr. One have made their triumphant return in this game, and while continuing my reign as the monarch of bad takes, I have to say I was rather lukewarm on this game's lineup of psychos.
How dare you?
I'm willing to say that some of these psychos are up there with my favorites in the entire series, the two of them I've played, but many of them don't come off like their breakdown was brought on by the outbreak, forcing them to cope with the harsh reality of death on a horrifying scale. They're just kind of Weird. Just for fucks, let's go over a few to show what I like and dislike in a Psychopath boss battle. Brandon here is a very unsettling character whose motivation fits the lore of this game incredibly well. He's a member of Cure who was protesting in Fortune City during the outbreak, only to see the infected he advocated for killing and eating people before him, which, yeah, your first reaction is a rousing no shit Sherlock, but my man is not in a great headspace right now. Him trying to cope by helping the zombies feed as penance, only to not be able to follow through with it once he's bitten, is surprisingly powerful. Plus, this is one of the few times Chuck stops his midlife crisis, kills the bad one-liners, and actually tries to talk this guy down like a person would. Now, the actual fight with him is questionable. When a motherfucker comes at me with a shard of glass fully intent to skewer me like the whore I am, but then starts Super Mario Brothersing himself across the arena, well, I'm just getting mixed tonal messages here. Despite that, the fight served as an exceptional reintroduction to a fan-favorite aspect of the Dead Rising series, a precedent that the next boss immediately threw in the trash. And goddamn, if he was a garbage man, that would be the funniest thing I've ever said and I could retire right now. But sadly, Capcom doesn't really give a shit about it, so... Antoine is a chef who's obsessed with his image. He thinks Chuck is a famous food reviewer because he's gone insane, and is a chef, so it kind of works. So he's like, hey, check out how good my food is, because that's his accent apparently. And Chuck is like, your cuisine is derivative and you are a homosexual, which frankly I thought was incredibly offensive. And then you fight with him, and I cannot stress this enough, to the death, okay? Is that supposed to be funny? Seymour is hanging bitches because I guess he was a loser before or something. I don't know. There really isn't much to him. And then Chuck is like, hey, quit it. But then he doesn't because he's the bad guy. So you have to fight him.
So hail Satan.
The incompetent asshole boss and the quiet hapless assistant trope, it can be funny, but it's not funny. And it doesn't belong in the same continent as a Dead Rising game. It was at this point I realized my issue is that the bosses in this game are really more focused on being silly and funny as opposed to being terrifying and psychotic, but with a hint of sympathy. You could find humor in the crazy chainsaw clown, but I mean, the game still took him seriously. Now look, I know humor is subjective, but that's an objectively stupid observation because so the fuck is everything. I'm sure there are people who actually prefer this lineup of bosses for all of the reasons I just went over. And that is completely valid. You are a beautiful human being. I just see these slack-jawed idiots prancing around, failing to make me laugh, and just feel like this is their day-to-day. So yeah, the Psychos went in a very different direction, but honestly, that's more of a symptom of something else. And then I never slept again. While Capcom were still the publishers, development reins for Dead Rising 2 were passed to the artists formerly known as Blue Castle Games, which led to a more lighthearted and campy take on the Dead Rising universe. And nothing in Dead Rising 2 is more emblematic of this major shift in tone than Chuck Green. The moment this man opened his mouth, Dead Rising became a parody of itself. For better and worse. But also for better. Instead of seeing the story through the eyes of a lovable everyman who got more than he bargained for, we get Chuck Green, the gruff 80s inspired one-liner spewing action hero with a heart of gold and the personality that is the sentience of stale white bread. Yummers. For as corny as it was, Dead Rising 1 had a story with conviction. It was critical of American consumerism, with themes of gluttony that directly related to each character's arc, as well as the zombies. The mall setting acted as a clever visual metaphor for overindulgence in this country. And while this is in no way an original concept, it occurs to me that I may have been too mean to Dead Rising's writing in my original review. Fast forward to Dead Rising 2, we've gone from a lambasting of American story tropes to an awkward attempt at emulating them. Chuck is just too hardcore to take anything seriously. Watch as he and his token female teammate trade innuendos with the subtlety of a brick to the temple. They make fuck eyes at each other while trying to prove Chuck innocent of terrorism because that's what narrative consistency is. Yeah, I forgot to mention, this game is like stupid horny for like no reason. Like that is a fully ineffective way to hold someone. She has so many windows for escape. It is amazing. It is amazing she hasn't run away from you. Yeah, I love this part. We get a really harrowing scene of this woman mournfully committing suicide next to her lover, sister's corpse. And Rebecca is like,
"It's about time. You'd almost think you like me being tied up."
I don't feel like that's the right vibe. I think you got the vibe right.
look, I love a good bad pun. No shit, right? But the way a lot of this dialogue is written, it just seems to lack any sense of self-awareness. It feels like Cap Canada actually thinks it's clever to fire off a quip after slaughtering a mentally ill human being. That is not great.
You may now kiss the bride.
Zeus's cock ring, Chuck, will you stop? A family has been destroyed. This woman will wake in a cold sweat for the next 30 years. What the actual fuck is wrong with you? Are you a sociopath? Love the shades, though. Bold choice to have drip that defies the dimensional barrier. He says exactly what you think he says. If you think he's not going to say it, if you think they wouldn't go there, they went there. He does say it. I'm not even going to play the clip. You know what he says.
I'm number one!
Yeah, you're on fire.
Okay, that one was pretty good. Oh, what's wrong, Chuck? You don't got nothing to say for this one? I mean, it's right there.
Sorry you had to split. He wasn't half the man he used to be.
And why stop there? Why even have the pretense of giving a fuck about human life?
I guess I've made my point. Should have quit while you were ahead. Guess we know who the real Sigma is. I guess you reap what you sow. All we're organizing are 13 funerals. No need to freeze up.
Chuck, he was obliterated in a ball of fire. Now, with all that said, I like Chuck. He has certain appeal. There really isn't a lot to him, but I'd be lying if I said he didn't grow on me a bit. He's a good dad, and even if the inciting incident is handled poorly, you still feel for him. He's in a really shitty situation that isn't fair. And a nameless corporation is taking advantage of the worst day of his life to have a scapegoat, essentially. Honestly, you'd be a sociopath if you didn't feel something for him. So it's pretty satisfying when he finally gets his way in the end. I mean, I would assume, because once again, I've been fucked for my choice of plastic. I'm going way off script here. Previously on a video by an idiot. I have opinions on Dead Rising 2 that you are not ready to hear. Wow, what a hot take I have. I like the first Dead Rising slightly more while still appreciating that this one had a new take on the formula, even if I don't always agree with it. Told you weren't ready. Don't get me wrong, I still have my fair number of grievances with this game, and you've heard all about them in this feature-length self-indulgent calamity of flashing images and unnecessary edits that I call art. Huh. Wonder where that came from. While one edges two out, just by the narrowest of margins, some days I feel a bit polyamorous. They both take the same premise of killing everyone with everything, and have their own fresh spin on it, while being a cohesive duology of games. I may have issues with the tone of this game, and the more goofy self-parody it made the series into, but at the same time, I still have a lot of respect for the way Dead Rising 2 carved out its own identity independent of the first game, while still very much being a follow-up worthy of it. And in the end, I just have to say that now that he's retired from the street fight, it's time for Blanca to face his toughest challenge yet, the single life. And spoiler alert, he's in for more than he bargained for. Tune in to CSMFN for this electrifying new sitcom, The Blankula. Tell me you know what I'm saying. Please, God, validate me. Subscribe because it's gonna be in the triple-digit degrees for the next 5 days, and I'm not turning the fan off. But that's not really relevant to what I just said.